Yes.
That's what you said. But understand the very important principle of language and communication. When you are answering to a question, when you are thinking about a question, try to incorporate the basic words, basic variables, and think with that variables, think with that words.
Okay.
Why you don't do that is because of a familiarity trap. That will come later.
Yes.
Anyway, okay, good.
Yes.
Okay, good. That means when you hear a name, you can know the possible nationality of that individual because you are familiar with the people from that nation, that country, carrying that kind of names. All right. Okay, good. Now, anything else? Don't take this for granted. Yeah. All right. Anybody else? Christopher?
No, sir, I can't think of an example just yet.
Okay.
Sundarji, may I?
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
If I'm hungry, I know I have to eat something in order to overcome that.
Okay.
Second example,
No,
even
no,
in
no,
the
no, no, no.
darkness,
Good
I can.
example. Good example.
And second
Explain.
one,
No, explain it. Don't take it as simple. Whatever you
okay,
try to explain now will have far-reaching implications. Okay.
all right.
Come on, explain what you said.
If my body needs
No, no, no,
something,
no, no,
and
no, no.
in
You
this,
said
I'm
what?
not able to elaborate it.
You are now you are talking the same thing in a different language. That's all. You said
Yes, yes.
when I am hungry, I know what food to eat, and you go and make it or take that food. That's what you said.
Yes, yes, yes.
Explain that. Oh, what is there to explain? Huh? It is so familiar. See, it is so familiar.
Yes.
Therefore, you cannot explain. And you don't think that there is anything worthwhile to explain. You don't find anything sensible to explain there. That's why millions of people, anybody else in the world having seen things falling, nobody doubted it. Nobody thought that there is something to explain about it. Understand? Yeah. You are bypassing many critical points. Unfortunately or fortunately, genius is not like that. In a way, we can say genius is not at all familiar with anything.
Yes, sir.
That's why he is able to look at everything fresh. Rather, a genius is not a victim of familiarity trap. Why Sarah was not able to explain is because it is something so familiar like falling of a stone. When somebody feels hungry, they go to the kitchen and take the food and eat. So what is there to explain? There is a great lot to explain in that one thing which you reported. Those who do that are the individuals who are labeled genius. Okay? And your attention should penetrate into the details of that, even that simplest statement. Like the attention of one individual penetrated so deep into the most common silly occurrence of a thing falling became the foundation of entire science and technologies today. Somebody just observing a lightning, okay, and reflecting for a moment. Lightning, who has not seen that? And a guy called Nikola Tesla saw that, and that is the foundation of the modern world. I mean, alternating current. Okay? So, to trespass in between, just do not be a victim of your familiar knowings. And right now you talked about a doing, your familiar doings. Okay, Sarah? And this is to
Yes, yes, yes.
this is applicable even to myself and to everyone also. All right. Okay, come on. By the way, when you explain what you said, you will take a lot of time, Sarah. It is just not easy to explain what you said. When I feel hungry, I go to the kitchen and have my food. Okay? For example, if there's a slight problem in your brain or in your consciousness by taking liquor or drug, you will not be able to do that. Why? There's a great lot of processes in that, for example. When you look at a simple processor like that, in its magnificence, then you become enlarged, then you become a genius, then you enjoy the wonders and beauty of existence. That's why we are proceeding in this route. Alright? Okay. Okay. Now, anybody else want to say? Go to examples. Anybody else? Any example?
I have an example.
Oh, it's beautiful. Come on.
So there is a knock on the door in the middle of the night,
Yeah.
and that's a familiar knock because I know exactly who it is from the pattern of the knock.
Again, extremely significant. Because I know the pattern of that knocking. Because you know the pattern of that knocking. And you will go and open the door. Okay, an efficient thief, an efficient criminal, if he reproduces that level of a knocking, no, just look at it. You know, magicians, I told you I have interviewed about 16 thieves. And I have reflected a lot on their competencies, and I myself was a thief. Okay? I know how the people look at the world. I have stolen the, what you call, the cigarette lighter of a circle inspector of police. Okay? So, they know first why in so many homes theft is happening. People are sleeping there. Okay? And I have seen some of the interviews with thieves, and I have seen some interviews, and I have interviewed some thieves, and most of them said people would be entering into deep sleep between 2 o'clock or 2:30 to 4:30 and etc. etc. I could not understand it because I am absolutely alert all the time. And anyway, what he said must be true because he has experienced it. So what Vinay said carries a lot of clues, great lot of clues. We are all victims of the familiar tappings, okay, of ideas, of experiences, of feelings, of sensations, of coming across events and episodes and situations all around. We are all tricked, we are all fooled by the familiar tapping on the doors of our perception. And we are not able to differentiate, is that a foe or a friend? You see, most of the situations of theft and most of the situations of rape and corruption and all those things, they are all great, in a way, very different kind of people. They know. And let me say, they know the familiarity trap of people, Vinay. And they operate not in this way, but we can explain it in this way. They know the familiarity trap of people. For example, you are traveling in a crowded bus, the pickpocketing guy just puts his efficient hands into your back pocket and lifts the purse. Because it's a familiar feeling. Because you walk through the crowd of the bus and your buttocks or your backside touches and rubs against the bodies of other people. So it is that feeling only. It is the familiar knocking on your body. And that guy has taken your purse. See? And because I am so much aware of everything, immediately, instantly I am taking this to a greater level. The great truths of existence, the great truths of the universe, the great truths of your genius, your ultimate core invariant of you is almost many times knocking on the doors of your sensation and perception and awareness almost every day, minimum 20, 30 times. Aham Brahmasmi. You are nothing but an expression of the ultimate force of the universe. In which case it is all the time knocking on your door. 24 hours, 60 minutes, 60 seconds. But it's an all the time going on knocking, unfortunately, that is so. And by sitting in meditation, by sitting in mantram and all that, you are trying to differentiate that particular knocking. It is not a particular knocking, it is the regular knocking. But you should be able to differentiate that knocking. Knocking of the greatest friend, knocking of the God on your door. And the God's knocking also will be very familiar to you because it has been what a beauty. See the beauty, that magnificent example of Vinay allowed me to go to make a sudden shift of the program, of the session. Actually, I wanted to come to this at the end of the session. And this is because of the familiarity trap with the knockings. Vinay, and Naveen, Arjun,
Yes.
Ganesh, Sara, Nitya,
Yes,
Veena,
that's right.
Devraj, Mantra,
Sundarji.
Parvati, Manisha, Christabel.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
And therefore, just do not ever take any knock on the doors of your perception. Okay, Naveen, got it? Okay, out of 100 times, 99 times it would be some ordinary friend. Sorry to use the word ordinary friend. No friend is ordinary. Oh, even though, sorry, there may be, but your way of looking at that ordinary friend can make him little bit extraordinary. Because when you look at an ordinary friend in an ordinary way, the way you are familiar with him, okay, Parvati, your energy is flowing at that dimensionally. Look at even the most ordinary friend, the most ordinary visitor, the most ordinary guy on the gate of your door, with your extraordinariness,
Yes, sir. Yeah.
without anticipating anything. All right, okay, Devraj, narrate your example. Devraj, yeah, yes,
Yeah, Sundarji.
yeah.
Yeah. Once I went to my friend's house at Vandram. I was visiting his house for the first time.
Okay,
But his house adjacent to another house, there was a house adjacent to his house,
okay.
which I felt was very familiar to me.
Which one? Wait. That house looked familiar to you.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So,
Wait. Though you have never seen it before,
No.
by the way, Devraj, that is the beauty required for communication at your level. Then it is the power. Though I have never seen that house before, it looked familiar to me. All right, okay, continue. All right.
Okay. Then initially I ignored it. But later, I asked the details about that house.
Hmm.
So before they telling me the details, I told them that that house has got 3 bedrooms,
Uh-huh.
2 bathrooms,
Hmm.
one veranda at the behind.
Hmm.
Like that,
It's
all those
22
details
thirty.
came to my mind.
Okay.
And I told them, I asked them, is it true?
Okay.
They told it is yes. I
Oh.
don't know how.
Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful. Now you are entering into the next level, which is actually not a part of our. Actually, it does not come under the domain of familiarity trap, but having mentioned it, yeah, it is something very relevant also because of the concept of familiarity he used there. Therefore, it is connected. Therefore, let us give some analytical attention to that. He just saw a house for the first time in his life, and he said that, of course, he must have felt a familiarity to that because he was aware of the contents in that. Okay? Whereas you felt it
Yes,
familiar because you became aware of the contents of that building. That is why.
yes,
Okay? And that is how we become familiar with the individuals, with the ideas, with the textbooks, with the doings, with the knowings, with the state of beings. Okay?
okay,
All right. Uh, so, what made it familiar is your intuitive sensing of the contents of the design or the setting or the structure of that building. That is of a marvelous level of familiarity. It does not come under the domain of familiarity. That comes under domain of creative perception. Okay, Devraj, you said you are not able to explain it. Very really, you are not able to.
yes, Sundarji.
Somebody else can explain this. I told you this also never, because when you become mentors and guides and trainers in the future, do you think your familiar ideas and or your familiar knowings will help you? Your familiar doings of interacting with somebody will help you? It has to operate at this level, which Devaraj is mentioning. Because every individual is a new entity. What Devaraj has said is quite possible. Devaraj talked about a building. Okay, seeing it for the first time. And when somebody comes for guidance for the first time, how will you know about him? Will you restrain your understanding about him only by the words and dialogues and explanations and reports and case studies which that person narrates to you? Then it won't work. That person has narrated to many others also. Your help, the helping dimension will occur in that unexpected gap. So, like when Devaraj saw a new building, he could identify exactly how many rooms inside, how many bathrooms, where the locations, etc. That is because of he is basically a design engineer and he is an intuitive person. A general term to use. That's all just descriptions. We give a name, intuitive perception, etc. But that is the possibility of many moments, many knocks on the doors of your attention and perception and thinking.
Yes.
I am sure many of you have had a similar experience, not to this scale, but at least a little bit of it. Like Nitya said, when she see a person, she can know, when she see the name, she can know their nationality. That's out of familiarity or whatever it is. It could be little more than that, but still. That is a possibility that will happen to you when you are relatively free from the familiarity trap. Because that familiar things are the only known things. Familiar things are all that I know, and I have to operate within the boundaries of this familiarity of knowings and doings and state of being. Then no more new things will be pursued, even when that is present before you. That is the trap part of it. Get the point. We will come to the trap. Already we have touched the trap when Ganesh Walmart said something, and now, okay. And the very purpose of bringing this familiarity trap as the topic, which may be continued in next session also, is to come to this level. Not to talk about familiarity. You are all familiar with a great lot of knowings. You are all masters in certain subjects or certain doings, and that's why you are there. No doubt. We are not talking about that. We are talking about what exactly one point triggered by Vinay, Dr. Vinay, and the next point indicated by Devraj. This is the beauty of this session. Whatever I wanted is happening here. I want you to take to this thing. You see the thing for the first time and you get it. That's what the requirement of the genius. That's the requirement of a highly competent individual. That's the requirement of a master warrior. That's the ongoing capacity of a simple thief. He just cannot go and survey the place and identify how many rooms, how many bathrooms, where things are kept, etc., etc., etc. The master thief, he just enters a compound for the first time, and just he precisely reaches the centralmost room or wherever the most precious things are kept, and he takes it and he leaves, and nobody is able to locate him. But when a huge army of police people, you see, one simple thief is captured by a huge army of police people after so many deliberations and attempts. Okay, let's leave that factor. Anyway, coming back to the point, that is the possibility, and which is narrated, which is demonstrated by our so-called most familiar Devraj. Don't take him for granted. We are not familiar with him. We do not know much about him. There is a lot more unfamiliar, unknown mysteries in every human being. And once in a while at least, their dialogues, their expressions, their responses, their behaviors, their doings, their way of relating with you, or their language would be carrying many knockings without their knowledge. Why I am giving such a repeated importance to this is precisely because of the familiarity trap with your knowings, or trapped by the familiar knowings of you. That's why there is not even a single case of a major discovery or creation or invention from the part of the so-called educated people, because they were all trapped by their familiar knowings. They can know only the particular house which they know. I want you to get out of that. Not to forget it and disregard it. Don't worry that when you get out of it you will forget everything. Your knowings are stably there. Even the little poem you mastered in your class 4, it is there. Don't worry about that. There could be a secret, unconscious anxiety and fear to get out of the familiar terrains and to look at the unfamiliar terrains. You must have seen when you and two other friends are walking on the road and one person comes and you know him and you are talking to them, and the two other people with you may walk around and go and look at the mobile, and they are disinterested because they don't know that person, even when he is your friend. They are not human beings, increasingly the so-called educated people. They just don't care about the things, the ideas, the people, the situations, the events, the contexts, the phenomena they come across, because they are not familiar. Finished. I don't know him. Finished. And coupled with another mindset of being worried about the strangers and things. So that's another mental trap we will discuss later. But the most critical is the familiarity trap. Because all learnings from kindergarten times onwards, the other person is trying to make you familiar, very well familiar with a few words of the books, textbooks. And by that repeated procedure, there is an implied communication that you don't have to be concerned about other things. Like the other example, a little boy is ready, he wants to look at his attention is going to the sound of a bird adjacent to the classroom, but he is not allowed to. He wants to know more about that bird, but he is not allowed to. And gradually he becomes conditioned to be disinterested in things that are not in the domain of familiar things. So it is a double-edged sword. One, individual gets trapped in the familiarity things or familiar things, familiar ideas, familiar doings, familiar knowings, familiar state of beings. And on the other side, all unfamiliar things are simply disregarded. Why Devaraj looked into that house is because he must have been having that general characteristic of looking at things, entities, phenomena with some particular attention. He has that background. It may not operate all the time. It does not also mean that whenever he looks at a building, everything will be known. That also is a problem of the familiarity trap, because education system tells you, trains you, conditions you that being educated means you will know a thing as you look at it. An electrical engineer is trained to look at only the electrical diagrams, or a doctor, or an engineer, or a management professional, or they are all trained, and they have to be sure about that. Otherwise, they are out of the field. With a lot of unconscious tension, they want to ensure themselves that they are sure within the available boundaries of the familiar things, which makes them more and more insensitive to the unfamiliar, new, and the strange, and the unexpected. That is the trap part of it. Trapped in the familiar, contained in the box, so-called out of the box is rather unimaginable for many people. Devaraj is like that even looking at people also. Devaraj, in fact, to tell a little bit of background about my contact, my association with Devaraj, he just saw me for a few minutes. That's all. He did not interview me or anything else. Instantly he invited me for a significant interaction with his employees in the first company he started, the first ever email company in India. That's a different story. And since then, I have realized in varied contexts, he has behaved and interacted with me as if he knows me almost thoroughly. And we have not interacted much, we have not behaved together much. So he is that kind of a person. He looks not only at buildings, at the people, and to the same intuitive power he has. That is just a name, don't worry about the word intuitive power. Every one of you has it. That's a different story. I'm just telling you, I'm just explaining what he has reported here. So that should be the general property of you, not to take anything for granted. In other words, familiar things are taken for granted in the sense that you may not investigate further. Like Vinay said, Dr. Vinay said, there is a familiar sequence and pattern of knocking on the door that it must be my friend. Just to get out of bed at 12 o'clock night and open the door, it is okay. Nothing, not okay about it. But I am telling, every time, even though it is the most familiar pattern of knocking, your attention should be delivered there. It should not be asleep. That's the way of the cats and the birds and the snakes and the lions and the trees and the plants and every material in the world. Every matter pieces in the world. As soon as you bring a piece of fire onto a rock, instantly it catches it. I mean, curiosity means it is sensitive to that. It does not take the fire of a matchstick for granted. So look at to begin with, look at every familiar thing as if you see it for the first time. Then that engines are sort of trained to maintain its originality. Because that will be required in the future when you become real geniuses in maintaining and training other people. That kind of an intuitive sensitivity will be required. Like Devaraj said, when you just see a person, you should know much more than what he talks. We have discussed the parable of the sound of the forest. Okay? The crown prince was sent by a master, by a genius emperor of the country to learn the ultimate science and the art and philosophy of ruling a kingdom. Where? To a master living in the forest. And he is sent alone with an assignment what? Listen to the sound of the forest and come back. So come, arise and awake towards that level of sharpness. Be a spy, like I would say. Be a spy in existence. What is the quality of a spy? Absolutely alert all the time. Even when the spy, most efficient spies in the history of the world are mostly females. The greatest recorded spy in the world is a female by name Mata Hari. You can see the internet. But in India we also are fascinated by the stories about a wonderful guy by name Ajit Doval, who lived in Pakistan for 13 years as a spy of India. What a mastery, what a wonder, what an alertness, what a presence of mind. What an attention to the details of his every expression, every response, every behavior, every doing, every way of relating with other people, and the language. If he was caught, he would be simply, tortured, and maybe even at the end of it killed. They would not kill a spy. They will torture a spy and then only they will kill. Because the other party feels cheated, feels defeated. And that was the history of all the spies. And even Mata Hari was also finally caught and she was tortured. And finally she said, please shoot me. And of course she was shot and killed. So coming back to the point, you will develop that absolute beautiful, competency of your systems, which is named by a single word, presence of mind. If you develop that culture of your entity to be, fresh and free and original in the most repeated knocks on the door. And then you will know, just by looking at a building, what is kept inside the building. I interviewed a thief in Orissa. He had broke open the house of the very chief minister of Orissa, or Jagannath Mishra or somebody else, about 8 or 9 times. And finally the chief minister had to constitute a unique group of efficient police officers to capture him. And they tried for about 6-7 months and then only he captured him. And that too by the tip given by his girlfriend. Alright, when I met him, he is a first year dropout from IIT Kharagpur, talking beautiful English language. And he was telling me, sir, when I enter the gate of a house, I can see how many rooms there, how many people there and what they are doing. Okay? That's on one side. And I interviewed a local thief in Ernakulam district. That was the last interview. He's a local guy, not even in school, maybe 5 or 6, and he stole the ornaments kept in the locked cabin of the centralmost room of the house, when there are more than 200 people assembled in that house in connection with the marriage of the daughter of that circle inspector of police. In the conventional time, you can imagine, there was a pandal and the so-called people cutting vegetables, etc., in the night and enjoying, talking, a group of people playing cards and other group of people maybe taking drinks and hell of a lot of things going on, because tomorrow is the wedding and the so-called food is being prepared there. All the relatives are there. And one of the relatives was a young mother, and this particular cabin or alamari or shelf or whatever with the money and the gold was kept in the centralmost room, and it normally it was locked, but there was a new mother with a young baby. So so that lady and the little baby was given that room, and he entered that room. And he broke open that safe or whatever it is and took all the gold ornaments, and because of his lack of general knowledge, lack of knowing, let us say so, Vinay, he tried to snatch the gold necklace of this mother. Out of, I would say, out of his let us say, enthusiasm or confidence, and he did not know the attention level of a young mother. Though she is dead tired, a small movement of the little baby will put her into complete wakefulness. And but he took the what you call and he left, and because of her shouting, everybody became alert, and he was not caught. After a few days, he was caught, and I met him in the jail. I told you, and then I asked him. This is not a part of February trap, but to continue the story. And he told me, sir, I asked him, see, when you are walking through, some people are there, and he walked over some sleeping people, etc., etc. If there is a knuckle sound of his legs, somebody will notice. And he told me, sir, and he touched and showed his nail of the toe. Sir, even my nail of the toe will obey what I say. In Malayalam, he said, "Ende kaalinte peruvilinte nakam polum njan parayunna anusarikkum." That was his language. Anyway, that's a different story, not connected with this what I was saying. Okay. What happened to, wonder about what happened to the other people? According to his own statement, at least 200 people assembled there. Assembled meaning not assembled there. At least for 30, 40 people cutting the vegetables, cooking all the varied dishes, etc. Then separate pandals were already kept there. Then the relatives are sitting there and round and playing cards. And some are sitting there and occasionally meeting relatives, talking and whatever it is. Through them, this guy is walking. They all heard the knock of a stranger walking there. They all saw the adjacent building walking through them. Perhaps he is he must have definitely assumed that they all think that he is one of the visitors, one of the people, one of the cooks or whatever. That he knows very well. Anyway, these are all normal things. What I am telling, when this guy was able to do that wonder of stealing that thing from that room, why he was able to do that is because of the what we call simply that familiarity trap. Nobody noticed. Definitely everyone. Then when he was caught, most of them identified him. They all had seen him. But nobody, according to their life, nobody suspected. That's how everything is happening. That's why all crimes, most of the crimes are happening like that. Most of the cheating. There are so many incidents of cheating. relationship cheating, financial cheating, all kinds of unethical happenings are going on everywhere, increasingly going on everywhere in the world, quite possibly, but newspaper reports, I just see YouTube items, and every day there's at least an average 3 YouTube reports about major crimes or this kind of terribly unethical events and activities of people. It's all happening because of the familiarity trap of the other people, the people around. Now, these are all explanations. You should be able to identify these kind of explanations. So, develop your own ideas about familiarity trap, okay, and be aware. Even when you are interacting with the most familiar person. Just like that, because that's the way the cat is. Yeah, with maybe, I don't know what is the percentage of brain, especially that thinking part of the cat. Most of them may be motor parts, motor meaning movement controlling area of the brain in case of a cat. Only very few set of part of the brain would be in charge of other understanding about the world. And we have whatever trillion of neurons in the brain. Familiarity with the knowing. Okay. Therefore, that things which we do not know are just disregarded. Whatever we know are taken for granted, even though we know only very little about most of our ideas. Parvati said very well. How many ideas are known to you very well? Of course, there is no demarcation where the so-called very well starts, at least comfortably, confident. That's a different question. If you are trapped in the very well known things, it might unconsciously create a so-called ego state in you where you will find it difficult to enter into a new idea. Because your knowledge about so much of things will give you that what you call prominence of self-image, so that you will anticipate quick clarity and understanding of a new idea, which is not possible. Naturally, because you have to enter very slowly, because it's a new domain, a new terrain. You cannot just like that enter into a new terrain, a new forest. You cannot take a forest for granted. Every time you have to be careful. And, what is time? 30 minutes more. And think more and more about this, think more and more, right? Create your own ideas very boldly, very freak out. I told you many times, freak out. Geniuses are eccentrics. They are not limited by their norms and regulations and so-called, in the comfort zone of their noise and comfortably sleeping and all that. They are ready to get up at 3 o'clock in the night by a sound and get out and know, look what it is. Let it be the sound of a new idea or a new experience or a new feeling or a new thought. I told you most of 80% of my ideas I wrote in the night time. And then
it's 23 hours.
Okay. Second, in a way, a real critical domain. Knowing, okay, it's there. The domain of doings. I mean, your actions, your activities. Identify, I say, I list down. In fact, in earlier some of my training programs, I prepared a list of items of common doings, including brushing the teeth, getting up in the morning, cooking the cup, plus playing caroms to playing badminton to doing on the computers. How many doings, different doings you do? Make a list of that. And look at the way of that doings. How many of that doings you do by a taken for granted way? Because taken for granted, meaning familiar things are taken for granted. Familiar knocks are taken for granted and you just go and open the door and end up in trouble. You must have heard a proverb in English, familiarity breeds contempt. For that also is quite common among human relationships. I know my wife for the last 10 years, what is there? Nothing special. So she is like a fool, bloody fool. Forget about contempt and all that. That's all very ordinary people. At least familiar things are taken for granted. Nobody looked at the falling of a stone or apple with contempt. But they taken it for granted. Oh yeah, it is there. What is there? Had one person not doubted it and not taken for granted, so it has been taken for granted, how much delayed the great sciences and technologies. If two young and very non-ordinary, subordinary boys not observed the movement of a lid upon a boiling pot, how much delayed it would have been the Industrial Revolution. It began with the steam engine. So is the case of every wonderful poems, every poet, every piece of poetry, every piece of drama, dance, etc., 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 etc. And coming quickly to the latest topic, I always told you the future will require genius individuals, not genius in physics and chemistry and management and administration, but genius in existence, genius in self, genius meaning the one who has mastered whatever is mastered. So we just use the word genius in self because, as I have told you many times, the coming word, coming meaning it can come any time, any day, any month, okay, which is going to be completely captured and controlled by the so-called artificial intelligence and AI-driven machines and systems and processes and procedures, where millions of people will be out of their jobs. Whether they are out of their jobs or not, their values will be absolutely taken for granted by the absolutely sheer magnificent power of the AI-driven programs.
Sundarji,
Yeah.
may
Started.
I add a point?
Yes, please.
Yesterday I got a very complicated mail for which I spent almost 1 hour to reply. I didn't send the reply. I made a reply. Okay, it took me 1 hour. Then this ChatGPT writer, I asked ChatGPT writer to write a reply.
Wait, go slowly, because all of us are not that familiar with the domain of your work. He is heading a complete group in charge of a major company in Kenya. Where is it?
Nigeria.
Nigeria. So that's why the significance of this. So that means you have an employee who is familiar with ChatGPT, right?
No.
Okay, then proceed. I thought when you said you asked some of your guys to reply using ChatGPT. Rather, you got a message driven by ChatGPT.
No, I got a mail
Okay.
from somebody which was very complicated to reply.
Okay.
It took me 1 hour to compose a mail, reply mail.
Okay.
Then I thought, let me try with ChatGPT writer, which is a Chrome extension.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you have an employee who is a ChatGPT writer.
No,
All right, please. Okay.
No.
Okay. All right. Proceed.
Then I asked this ChatGPT writer to write a reply.
Okay.
It composed a mail in 2 minutes.
Okay.
much better than comprehending everything what I have written.
Okay. Okay.
So if I would have asked that question or asked ChatGPT writer to write a reply,
Okay.
I could have saved 1 hour or 55 minutes.
Okay. Beautiful example. Beautiful example. Now I wonder what the other guy will be doing. Exactly, that's the word. With such an experienced professional like Devaraj, just getting an ordinary, let's say an email, he was rather confused because that mail was created by the ChatGPT. I understand. I wonder he was able to do it because precisely that is just one of the millions of consequences. One of the millions of consequences that is going to affect the human system, process and procedures and activities. What you are going to do.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that one of the major banks in Australia just last week, they made 300 people redundant because they have replaced them with AI capabilities.
Oh, from where? From the government department or from your company?
No, from a major bank, Westpac.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And it's also heard that now the strategies can be done by AI, so
Oh,
they may not
definitely,
CEOs and the
definitely.
top professionals. It's not only the bottom lines; it's actually the top lines are also being hit because it's not required because the machine can think much better.
Yeah. So what I mean to say that I am sure none of you will be asked to go. That's a different double that will be operating in you just because you are sitting there. That's a different issue. It's a different level of issue. Now, the point I wanted to get your attention is that a great majority of people are going to undergo severe stress and depression and confusion and indecisiveness, whatever that is much, much dangerous than poverty and whatever, and they will need your kind of a guidance. It could be one person, two people, three people, forget about that. And ideally, I hope, at least after your retirement, you will, okay, that's a different scenario. Anyway, that has to happen because I am sure nobody will be able to give guidance the way you will be capable of. Because they all will be doing it by whatever they understand, by the normal logic and normal education. See, I am talking about, for example, Veena Ganesh. She is a brilliant student of chemistry with no trace of background in psychology or related aspects. Because she was good in thinking and analytical thinking, I gave her some directions and training, etc., etc. And because she was so good in that, to practice as a psychologist, she did a course in psychology, got a postgraduate degree. That's all simple things. But the things that she is doing is astounding. I am telling openly, which she will not agree to me, because I am absolutely sure that I will not be able to do that. Just by 1 hour dialogue, she absolutely turns around the mindsetting of somebody. Okay? That's basically because sometimes she would tell me that that is because she does not know anything about psychology. Yeah. So that kind of a possibility is there with every one of you. That's why I talked in little bit of a detail about Veena Ganesh. So last day also she called and told me something which I am so happy and I am so happy. I am so surprised also secretly how this lady is able to do that. Alright. So, yeah, why? So, and she always tells me that it's because of whatever input from the interaction. So, I am giving all those things to you and it will all come to you, and I am just preparing your mind settings to be open enough and bold enough and courageous enough to believe what you understood and to trust your belief in what you understood and just proceed. Not necessarily now, when the opportunity comes. When the opportunity, it will be inevitably there. Okay? Already, what you call Devraj, who is heading a major implementation division, he openly narrated to us. He must have seen thousands and thousands of mails, critical mails. But one email put him into confusion because the language will be unimaginably supreme. Just imagine. Even I am feeling a little bit worried. No? There will be somebody who will be able to conceptualize something with a much better mastery of language than me. It will be possible. Because it can in a split second it can compare and contrast and analyze millions of data and make a marvelous proposal, a marvelous report, a marvelous presentation. You just imagine. Almost 70 to 80% of the current managers will be out. If they don't have that qualities, wonderful qualities of a human being, competency part is going to be out.
But it is the humans who is giving the direction and context, right? It is
No.
not
That is the misunderstanding about AI. How you develop these ideas?
Because when I ask a direct question, ChatGPT can't give me the right answer. I have to give lot of inputs and direction. That's when it will bring up
Correct.
close to right answer.
All right, correct. Okay, correct. You are talking about ultimate form of ChatGPT, which is called artificial intelligence in its totality, which is penetrating to our details. Now, what I am talking about is, you have asked a question and you get the reply, okay? And you should be there to ask that question,
Yes, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, that's the point.
That is where the human mind is still thinking there.
Yeah. No. That's about what to do. But artificial intelligence in its real form is capable of decision making.
When the inputs are given.
No. Even they will decide what all inputs have to be taken in the management of the corporate strategy department of a company. Of course, there will be 1 or 2 or 3 people, not that it is completely robot driven. No.
I was talking to somebody who is also an engineer in the AI space, and what he told me was the connections, they are trying to replicate the neuronal connections in here also, the linkages. But as of now, the connections are just linear and it is not crisscrossed. And it cannot create nodes and internodes of its own. At least for now.
As of now.
As of now.
Yeah, it is coming to that stage. Already it has come, but they are testing it. Okay, even at the current level of ChatGPT, which is only a simple arm of what you call the huge domain of artificial intelligence, okay? In that arm itself, like what Devraj said just now, okay? Or considering the jobs of journalists and report writers and content creators and even computer program creators. As of now, already there are artificial intelligence programs which will write a program. There will not be 1,75,000 people required for Infosys, maybe 300 people. Even with the mechanical process like automobile manufacturing, Mercedes-Benz new plant in Germany, Leipzig, Germany, only 23 people, which means the most advanced Mercedes-Benz cars. Everything is done by robots. That's only a little part of again artificial intelligence. But look at the society, future of the societies. For example, you asked the GPT. He said what he said is not entirely true. None of the Indians are at that level of artificial intelligence. They are just learning it and they are just talking about what they know as the ultimate. Not at all. It has gone much beyond that. It is not linear thinking, already into network thinking. By linear, what he said is not at all correct. It is not linear thinking. Definitely it is network thinking. Otherwise the mail, this ChatGPT just cannot write poetry. Poetry is impossible by linear thinking, no doubt about that. An email is impossible by linear thinking, linear network. It is definitely dynamic. Conventional computers went by linear connections, not now. How millions of data is analyzed and the central point is identified, is it by linear thinking? It will take at least 20 hours even for the most fast computers. Now it is done in 1 second. So it is not at all linear like you said, your friend said, not at all. That is the past. Even in the past it was not so. How is matrix computing, which I have done for my thesis analysis? It is matrix inversion. It is not by linear programming, not at all. So coming back, so I am telling the society in general will be affected. In fact, in another 5 years or maximum 10 years, the two dominant religions will collapse, Islam and Christianity. Because people will continue to ask questions. Their foundations will be attacked by general knowledge. Okay? Then governments, for example, in 2024 elections in India and happening in US also, just any guy is asking, daily messages are coming to mobile phone, do you want to install ChatGPT? Now, somebody is asking, which party I should vote for? That information will affect him. Again there will be confusion. Definitely any new thing, any powerful thing will be first and ever used by the evil forces. Because good people do not need any of these things. In order to do good, you don't need ChatGPT and artificial intelligence. But to do evil, precisely Parvati, all the powerful tools will be used by the evil and will be not even looked at by the good. Because to do good, you don't need any dumb thing. You don't need a rifle to do a good thing. So AI is going to be used mainly and maybe much more so in sophisticated ways by evil forces in the world, the evil corporations and evil political minded people. Okay? What I mean, let them do it. Here I see much more relevance to what Michael Nostradamus said. Towards the end of the world, people with psychological power will survive. And that is the most critical line in the entire book of Nostradamus, as far as I look at it. But the general population is worried about world war, blah, blah, blah. And this is precisely when
What
artificial...
kind of psychological powers, Sundarji?
That is
People will lose trust in their thinking. They probably will be prompted to ask every question to ChatGPT or some kind of...
That also is so. It's already happening. We are all waiting for a critical turning point when it creates a massive impact when a large part of society collapses. Individual collapses, nobody bothers, Already family structure in all over the world is collapsed, even in India. But nobody bothers. Because it is not a topic for the politicians, nor for the religions, nor for the men. What they can do, they just cannot do anything. Today I was listening to the talk of a reasonably good philosopher. He was just referring to a small incident. And that small incidents, everybody takes it for granted. That's how even major illnesses happen. Before every illness, there is an indication given by the body. It's a gentle knock on the door. Nobody bothers about that. And anyway, that's a different story. This is about a recent case in Allahabad. A symbol, so-called symbol, everybody is mocking at it. That is, a man, quickly speaking, marriage between a man and a woman was fixed, a romantic affair, romantic relationship, and he molested her, whatever, sexual abuse, whatever, not abuse, sorry, sexual activity happened. And when she talked about the possibility of marriage, he said, no, I talked to my family and they checked your horoscope and you have some astrological, horoscope problem called Chauva Dosha in local language. Therefore, we don't want to marry her. But she could file a case according to cheating or IPC, whatever section. And they filed a case in the Allahabad High Court. And it is the first time a case like that, that the man is denying me because I have Chavadosha. Then the court ordered, okay, let her go and see whether what she said is true. And again, it was referred to not an ordinary astrologer or something like that, but to the astrology research department in Benares Hindu University, and it was referred to them, and things like that. Okay, and going on. So, if the court comes with a verdict, court has made an interim verdict, and the boys' party is very rich and influential. They took to the Supreme Court, and etc., etc. That are very irrelevant to our consideration. But what I am telling is, almost every fundamental building blocks of society, which enabled the relative peace and beauty of existence, they are all, most of them are already collapsed, or all on the verge of collapse, or will collapse. So, what I mean to say that your kind of people are very essential. And by the way, they, in the future generation, they will not be satisfied by explanations of Bhagavad Gita and Ramayana and Bhagavatam and Bible and Quran. They may listen to that for hours together and go back into same perilous confusion. They may require a real change in understanding, which only you can provide. That is why I am insisting on this. Because there are already plenty of those people. And by listening to Karmanyavadi, nobody can escape from the required result of a work. All the churches, at least I know, Christian community, they are very deliberately, very systematically trying to preserve the family integrity, unlike other religions. But nothing happens. Because the new couple requires some other programs of the mind, some other shift in perspective. That only will enable them to maintain the relatively harmonious relationship with each other. Not by religious norms and all that. That time is over. And I don't know whether such a time ever existed either. And illnesses will increase. The artificial intelligence is very likely, I am sorry Vinay, my intuition is that take some of these principal foundations of the Western medical philosophy. Because it will be able to understand the human body, and it will recommend the total body interaction, not mechanical looking at some parts of the problem. That's a different story. And then, because of the stress and depression and other kind of serious mental conflicts and suppression of emotions, etc., that's what is going on now, suppressing. Because people have a false self-image to be presented before other people, therefore they don't want to admit and show that they are suffering from a confusion and chaos in their domestic life or corporate life or somewhere. And suppressing, it will all go down to the autonomic nervous system and ends up as so-called various serious illnesses like diabetes and constipation and liver problem and heart problem and so-called various types of cancers and things like that. All of them are created by the problems of the central nervous system. Raga, the roga, I told you. Otherwise, why should there be? Of course, there can be illness created by increasingly practiced black magic also. That's a different story. An innocent person can be put into tremendous tragedies by just manipulating some food materials and giving it to that person. And that also is going on. Just to see the other day what happened in Kerala. A 35-year-old man, a father, just brutally kills a 6-year-old daughter, just imagine. And she looks so attractive, a beautiful little baby. with an axe, brutally, Naveen, in Kerala. It has, such an incident has never happened in the history of mankind. Okay? There is poison giving or battering or severe physical abuse, etc., etc. Just like that in the morning the child is sitting on the sofa and playing, and the father appears with an axe by which wood is cut. That kind of an action brutally kills it, and neighborhood people are telling, Acha, that girl is calling, father, don't, whatever. It's two, three attempts to kill it. What is that? So, these are all simple, like a whistleblower, Nobody notices small beginnings. Everybody is waiting for major things to happen. So what I am telling is all, that is I am a clinical psychologist, even in clinical psychology such a mental state is never even indicated by none of the mental disorders. I mean, the greatest of that level of mental illness is called a psychopathic personality. Even they don't do this. Psychopaths, even they don't do it. Meaninglessness is the most prevalent expression of the modern world. A lot of people have lost their meaning in life, among other things, which includes even rich people, employed people, etc., etc. So many variables are operating. So leading up to society, one day everybody will come to know that a lot of people are in great troubles of psychological problems. And the conventional methods of so-called meditation and yoga will not work. Even for the meditation, which itself is a false term. Actual required term is required activities incubation. Nobody even knows the meaning and what to do with meditation. Nobody knows. Meditation is not on an idea. But incubation is an action. What is required is an activity. To locate that operating principle inside you is an action. That operating principle in you is not an idea. So nobody is correctly told. Evidenced by the fact that you don't hear any stories about people getting out of illnesses or problems in life by listening to the talks of Vivekananda or Ramakrishna Paramahamsa or anybody. So they are all empty languages of understanding, of knowing. You have to do the doing of getting out of the stress and depression. That needs clear-cut language of directing them on what to do. That only you can give. No, you have to give. You have to find out, you have to discover, you have to create, you have to invent the tools of your language, and you have to develop that competency to understand how many rooms are there in the neighboring building. Because a new guy is a new building. Your friends are not coming to you for guidance, including they will come. You have to identify the unique knocks they have received on the doors of their experience and feelings and emotions, and identify who is that stupid visitor.
It's 23:30.
That's all. We will continue with familiarity trap with its deeper roots in taking that by which you take your own buildings for granted, where you disregard the plenty of knocks that you receive on the inner doors of your own mind or intellect and spirit. Okay? Alright?